Obina Uma stood at the balcony of his upscale Lagos high-rise, staring out at the glittering skyline. Below him, the city pulsed with life. Yellow danfos weaving through traffic, hawkers shouting, and electricity generators humming in hidden alleys. Yet inside his luxurious apartment, silence reigned. Inside the marble-floored living room, Amaka, his wife of 3 years, laid fresh kola leaves before a small shrine dedicated to Mama Yuzo, Obina's widowed mother. Flames from the oil lamp cast dancing shadows across Amaka's gentle face, but her beautiful dark skin, so often the pride of his youth, was etched with worry tonight. "Amaka," Obina called without turning, his voice icy. "Why haven't you prepared my dinner yet?" Amaka's slender fingers trembled as she placed the kola nuts aside. "I did, Obina. But Mama asked for rice and stew." "That's ridiculous," he snapped, turning at last. "I told you I'm on a strict diet. My blood pressure won't allow it." She met his eyes, hesitated, then bowed. "Forgive me." Her voice was soft, but Obina barely registered her apology. His gaze was fixed on the china cabinet, where a photo of Mama Yuzo beaming in traditional attire sat beside a trophy from Obina's first real estate deal. Mama Yuzo emerged from the hallway in a flowing iro and buba, hands folded in prayer. "My son," she intoned, voice carrying the weight of tradition, "your heart grows heavy and your spirit is restless." She stepped forward, offering him her hands. "Let us pray together tonight." Obina's jaw clenched. "Not now, Mama." He withdrew his hand and stalked back inside, slamming the balcony door. The echo reverberated through the apartment. Amaka rushed to quiet her mother-in-law's startled gasp. "It's all right, Mama. He's under stress." Mama Yuzo's eyes, dark and knowing, locked on Obina's retreating back. "Stress from wealth without wisdom," she murmured. A chill passed through Amaka at her words. Later, in the dimly lit kitchen, Amaka chopped onions with trembling hands. Mama Yuzo knelt at the shrine, whispering soft prayers. Obina's voice drifted from the living room, phone pressed to his ear as he negotiated another can't-miss investment. Amaka paused, pressing her palm to her chest. She glanced at her own reflection in the window. The bright yellow wrapper she'd chosen to honor her mother-in-law's Yoruba heritage now stained with tears. "Mama Yuzo," she whispered, touching her heart, "help me be strong." A distant rumble of thunder grumbled across the city. Outside curtains danced. Inside, a family's harmony began to crack. 2 days later, Obina sat in a sleek conference room at Eco Atlantic, surrounded by sharply dressed men in tailored suits. The skyline view from the floor-to-ceiling windows mirrored the city's nocturnal splendor, yet inside, darkness gathered. At the head of the table presided one Ajani, Chief Okoye, a man whose reputation straddled business tycoon and occult benefactor. His dark brown eyes gleamed under the soft recessed lighting. He tapped a gold-tipped fountain pen against the tabletop. "Obina," Chief Okoye began, voice smooth like aged palm wine, "you've proved yourself a rising star. Your developments in Lekki are impressive, but potential is wasted without power." Obina leaned forward. "I've heard." "Not power in the political sense," Okoye interrupted. "True power. Abundance beyond imagination. But gifts such as these cost more than mere capital. They demand sacrifice." Obina's throat tightened. "Sacrifice? I don't follow." He smiled, revealing perfect white teeth. "Two pure hearts. A mother's love. A wife's devotion. Only then can the gates to unimaginable fortune swing wide." The words hung in the room like a guillotine. Obina's pulse hammered. The price was monstrous. He swallowed. "What exactly do you require?" Chief Okoye's gaze flickered to the window, to the streets far below. "A demonstration of your dedication. 2 loved ones sacrificed. Then wealth beyond your wildest dreams." Obina's mind raced. He saw Amaka's bright laugh, Mama Yuzo's loving prayers. But he also saw ledgers, profit margins, skyscrapers bearing his name. He forced himself to speak. "I'll consider your proposition." Okoye inclined his head. Consider well. Such opportunities knock but once. He slid a sealed envelope across the table. All details inside. Return here next full moon. Bin arose numb. He walked out into the humid Lagos night, the envelope heavy in his pocket like a cursed relic. He hailed a cab, eyes unfocused. In the back seat, the driver hummed an old highlife tune. Obinna watched streetlights blur past. His reflection in the glass wavered. A man caught between devotion and damnation. He closed his eyes, recalling Mama Yuzo's gentle smile. He recalled Amaka's unwavering faith. And he wondered how far he was willing to go. That evening, thunder rolled across the sky like warning drums. Obinna returned home past midnight. The apartment was dark and empty. No incense, no cola, no prayers. Only the hush of neglect. He flicked on the foyer light. Amaka appeared, eyes red-rimmed. "You're late," she whispered. "Traffic," he snapped, dropping the envelope on the hallway console. "What's wrong with you? Where were you?" she demanded softly. "I was worried." Obinna's temper flared. "I'm a busy man. I don't need you nagging me." Her lip trembled. "Nagging. I was worried about you." His hand shot out, an angry strike across her face. The slap echoed. Amaka's head snapped sideways, her eyes wide with shock. "Amaka!" Mama Yuzo's voice thundered from behind. She had followed Obinna silently. Now she stood between them, robes swirling. "How dare you lay a hand on my daughter?" Obinna's face twisted. "Stay out of this, Mama." He shoved his mother to the side. Mama Yuzo stumbled but regained her balance. Her eyes blazed. "Obinna Namdi Uma," she began, voice quivering with righteous fury. "You will not behave like this in my house." Amaka sank to her knees, trembling. Blood beaded at her lip. She covered her mouth, tears glistening. Obinna felt a cold fury grip him. He advanced on his mother. "You think you can control me? This is my life." He raised a fist. Mama Yuzo backed away, fear in her eyes. "God help you, my son," she whispered, her voice small. Amaka scrambled forward, placing herself between them. "Obinna, stop. You're hurting her." He hesitated, just a breath, then stormed past, retreating to his study. The door slammed. Silence engulfed the apartment. Mama Yuzo sank beside Amaka, brushing a strand of hair from her daughter-in-law's face. "We will pray for him," she said softly, voice heavy with sorrow. "Tonight the gods are angry." Amaka shook her head, tears flowing. "He's changed, Mama. He's not the man I married." Mama Yuzo embraced her, both of them trembling as thunder rattled the windows. Outside, rain began to fall, as though the heavens wept. 2 nights later, the apartment was filled with incense smoke and the fragrance of burning kola nut husks. Mama Yuzo sat before the shrine, head bowed, chanting in Igbo. Amaka knelt beside her, hands clasped, tears streaming silently. Obinna paced at the window, silhouetted against the flickering streetlights. The sealed envelope lay open on the altar. Inside, the details were as brutal as the promise of power itself. 2 lives for a legacy. He swallowed. His reflection in the window was pale, almost unrecognizable. Mama Yuzo looked up, silver-gray hair framing her worn yet resolute face. "My son," she began in her soft melodic voice, "you stand at a crossroads. One path leads to riches forged in blood, the other to ruin. Think of the curse you invite." Obinna's shoulders tightened. "Mom, you don't understand. With that wealth we can build a hospital. We can help the poor. Do you know how many lives could be saved?" Mama Yuzo's eyes shimmered. "At what cost? My daughter. My granddaughter." He flinched. "The cult promised anonymity. The world will never know. It will look like tragedy." He ran a hand through his hair. "I'm doing this for us." Amaka rose, trembling, wrath in her dark eyes. "For us? You mean for you?" This is your greed. You want everything for yourself. Obinna rounded on her. Don't lecture me. You don't understand sacrifice. Mama Yuzo stood. Sit down, both of you. She pointed to the small divan by the shrine. Obinna, listen to your own mother. You killed respect the moment you raised your hand to your wife. Her voice cracked with emotion. Now you prepare to kill them both. Stop this madness. Amaka's lip quivered. Obinna, please. Promise me you'll tear up the contract. Promise me. Obinna's fists clenched. His eyes darted from his mother to his wife. For a moment remorse flickered. Then his gaze hardened. No, he whispered. I need this. Mama Yuzo's face drained of color. She sank to her knees. Then you choose this path alone. She closed her eyes, voice low. May the ancestors judge your soul. Amaka gasped, rushing to her mother-in-law's side. But Obinna turned away, leaving them both bowed in prayer. The incense spiraled up, enveloping Amaka and Mama Yuzo in its ghostly embrace. Outside, the city's sirens wailed, a mournful lament for what was to come. The night was oppressively still. No thunder, no rain, only the whir of mosquitoes. Obinna slipped into the study, retrieving a bottle of sleeping pills prescribed to Mama Yuzo. He paused, staring at the two faces on the desk. Mama Yuzo's serene smile in her wedding photo, and Amaka's radiant grin from their honeymoon. His heart pounded. He poured the pills into two flimsy paper cups, each diluted in warm water. Then he crept down the hallway to where Mama Yuzo and Amaka lay sleeping under mosquito nets. He watched them breathe. Mama Yuzo's slow, rhythmic sighs. Amaka's gentle, even snore. A single tear rolled down his cheek. I'm sorry, he whispered. Then he poured the poisoned water into their mouths, smoothing Mama Yuzo's robes afterward. When dawn broke, Amaka and her mother-in-law lay cold on the divan, door ajar. Obinna appeared at the entrance, face pale. He gathered them into his arms, sobbing. They were taken from me, he screamed, voice echoing through the empty apartment. Taken. He called the police, staged a robbery scene, a ransacked living room, shattered vases, and his own bloodied wrist to feign injury. Neighbors rushed in, alarmed. Reporters swarmed when they heard the story. Prominent businessman's home invaded, blared headlines. Obinna stood outside in a silk dressing gown, sunglasses shielding red-rimmed eyes, as uniformed officers dusted for fingerprints. He delivered a flawless performance of grief, mouthing silent apologies to two empty chairs. Late that afternoon, word spread. Mama Yuzo and Amaka had died in a home invasion. The city mourned. Obinna signed condolence books with trembling hands. But as the sun dipped below the horizon, Obinna felt a strange presence, a quiet chill, as though the apartment itself recoiled. He glanced at the shrine. The kola nuts he'd left untouched now lay shattered on the floor. He fell to his knees, panic rising. No, no, he staggered back, heart pounding. In the hushed gloom, Mama Yuzo's final words reverberated. The one you discard will rise. Obinna's reflection in the window blurred. A scream choked in his throat. Outside, Lagos carried on, undaunted, unknowing. Inside, a man's triumph turned to ashes even before the smoke had cleared. And somewhere, hidden in the slums he had abandoned, a child named Kizoba stirred, fate's spark igniting in tiny, defiant eyes. Obinna's rise to fortune seemed unstoppable. Within months of staging the robbery, his real estate portfolio ballooned. He purchased a sleek glass tower on Victoria Island, opened 2 boutique hotels along the Lekki coastline, and acquired a fleet of luxury SUVs. Social media beamed his smiling face in every glossy magazine. Young mogul's empire expands, trumpeted one headline. Philanthropist or power-hungry, teased another. Yet behind the tailored suits and polished speeches, Obinna's mind unraveled. It began with sleepless nights. He'd wander the penthouse halls at 3 a.m., eyes wild, whispering fragments of his mother's curse. In one hallucination, He saw Mama Yuzo's silhouette at the end of the corridor, her lips moving in silent accusation. He'd lunge forward, only to collide with a marble pillar, blood trickling from his forehead. At a celebratory gala for his new hotel launch, Obinna raised a crystal glass in a toast. The room shimmered with chandeliers and designer gowns. "To dreams realized," he declared, voice booming. But as he smiled at the crowd, the lights flickered, just for a heartbeat, and he saw in the mirrored wall behind him, Amaka's horrified eyes staring back. His breath caught, the music warbled. He cleared his throat, forcing a laugh. Guests shifted uneasily, sensing something wrong. Later that night in his private study, Obinna punched numbers into his phone. "Yes, transfer everything, move the funds offshore. I want zero trace." He barked orders at his CEO, whose face paled in the glow of the laptop screen. "We can't leave any loose ends," Obinna insisted. His phone buzzed. A text from his new wife Ifeoma, once a socialite trophy, now an eager partner in his empire. "Dinner tonight." He tapped back, "Not tonight." Obinna sank into his leather armchair, head in hands. His pulse thrummed like a war drum. The envelope from Chief Okoye lay on the desk, a silent reminder of the debt he'd incurred. He remembered the smooth promise of children's education, of hospitals and orphanages bearing his name. But now he felt only hollow dread. His reflection in the window wavered. Mama Yuzo's voice echoed, "The one you discard will rise." Obinna pressed his palms to his eyes. When he looked again, the skyline was just lights, no curses, no ghosts. But sleep would not come. Each heartbeat pounded a warning that blood never washes away so easily. Meanwhile, in the dusty backstreets of Ajigunal, a different life unfolded. Kizoba, Amaka's only child, had survived that fateful night thanks to Ijeoma, the devoted maid. As bullets shattered glass in the Uma home, Ijeoma bundled the newborn against her chest and fled into the maze of alleys. Years passed. The tin-roof shacks grew around Kizoba as he toddled through puddles after rain, his dark skin gleaming under the sun. Ijeoma scrubbed floors by day and taught Kizoba letters by night under the flicker of a single bulb. "You're special," she'd say, smoothing his hair. "Your mother was gentle, but you," she paused, wiping a tear, "you have fire in your soul." By age 10, Kizoba was reading repair manuals and hacking old radios. Mrs. Adunni, the neighbor whose outhouse he repaired free of charge, beamed with pride. "That boy will go far," she whispered to Ijeoma one afternoon. Ijeoma nodded, clutching a crumpled photograph of Amaka that she'd kept hidden under her mattress. Kizoba's nightmares were different from Obinna's. He dreamed of two women calling his name, his mother and grandmother, yet their faces remained just out of reach. When he awoke screaming, Ijeoma would cradle him, murmuring lullabies in Igbo until his sobs quieted. On his 12th birthday, a local pastor organized a computer literacy class. Kizoba crept into the makeshift classroom and sat on a battered stool. The moment he touched the keyboard, something clicked. The screen glowed with potential. By the end of the session, he'd coded a simple program that played his mother's favorite hymn in digital chimes. The pastor wept when he heard it. "God has given you a gift," the pastor told him, pressing the boy's hand. "Use it well." Unbeknownst to Kizoba, this gift would one day draw the world's, and his father's, undivided attention. By 18, Kizoba had earned a scholarship to the University of Lagos's fledgling tech institute. His reputation as a coding prodigy spread faster than wildfire. He lived in a cramped dorm room with peeling walls, subsisting on gari and water from a neighbor's well. Yet inside his head ideas bloomed. Apps to monitor water quality in slums, algorithms to optimize generator runtimes, systems to crowdsource microloans for small traders. His mentor, Professor Ogundipe, a retired engineer who spotted him fixing a broken lab computer, penned letters to international foundations securing funds for Kizoba's projects. "This young man," Ogundipe wrote, "carries the legacy of two women whose lives ended too soon." He will honor them with his brilliance. Kizoba's breakthrough came at a national hackathon. His team's project, a mobile platform linking investors to community-run farms. Judges hovered over his code, nodding in approval. When they announced the winners, Kizoba Uma echoed in the auditorium. He stepped forward, heart pounding, and accepted the trophy, hands shaking. Cameras flashed. He smiled, eyes bright, thinking only of Igioma and the photograph tucked in his notebook. That night, in the empty lecture hall, Kizoba whispered into the darkness, "I will find out who did this to my mother." His words hung between the silent rows of seats like a vow. Somewhere, far above the glittering skyline, Obinna felt the tremor of that promise. Obinna's world began to crumble. First, a major partner withdrew funding, citing unforeseen complications. Then, a regulatory investigation sprang up in his hotel operations. Sudden inspections uncovering unlicensed renovations. His offshore accounts flagged for irregularities. Social media turned savage. #BloodTycoon trended nationwide, fueled by anonymous leaks of audio recordings. Mama Yuzo's final prayer and a mockus letter to a friend about fearing for her life. At a board meeting in his glass tower, Obinna faced his directors. The room smelled of stale coffee and fear. "We need a solution," his CFO stammered. "Investors are panicking." Obinna slammed his fist against the table. "Shut down the investigations. Pay the regulators. Do whatever it takes." Silence followed. Then one brave board member, Tund Adewale, cleared his throat. "Sir, we can't cover up murders." His voice trembled, but his eyes were steady. Obinna's smile froze. The room went icy. Directors exchanged guilty glances. That night, Obinna returned home to find his trophy wife Ifeoma packing. "I can't stay," she said, voice flat. "My name is Mud." She dropped her designer bags at his feet. "Goodbye." She walked out, red taillights vanishing into Lagos traffic. In the emptiness, Obinna sank to the floor. Shadows lengthened around him. He remembered Chief Okoye's words. Sacrifice demands sacrifice. He'd given life. Now it demanded his sanity. He stumbled to his bedroom mirror. Under the halogen lights, he saw not the confident entrepreneur, but a gaunt specter. His eyes darted as if hunted. He whispered, "Mama Yuzo, Amaka." Then his reflection smiled back, just for a fraction, lips twisted in a mockery of triumph. He recoiled, trembling. All around him, the city's heartbeat went on. Traffic, street hawkers, distant music. But for Obinna, every sound was an accusation. The curse had awakened, and it would not rest until blood debts were repaid. Kizoba's app launch was a gala of its own. Held at the Institute Auditorium, the event drew tech entrepreneurs, investors, and curious press. Banners read, "Empower the Margins." Kizoba stepped up to the stage in a simple white shirt and dark chinos. No tailored suits, no flashy jewelry. When he spoke, his voice carried the weight of his past and the promise of his future. "Tonight," he announced, "we honor the women who raised me, and all those whose voices are silenced by violence." He clicked a button. The screens behind him displayed archival news clippings, photos of Obinna's crying interviews, the home invasion, and buried deep, a grainy image of a tearful maid clutching a baby. Murmurs rippled through the audience. After the applause, a journalist approached. "Mr. Uma," she said, pressing a recorder. "Where did you get these clippings? They contradict the official story." Kizoba's smile sharpened. "I did some digging. Truth has a way of surfacing." He handed her a flash drive. "For your investigation." Later, in his modest apartment overlooking the lagoon, Kizoba sat at his desk. He inserted the flash drive and opened files. Police reports, autopsy notes, financial transfers. The pieces snapped into place. Obinna signed false statements, his phone logs that night. A chill ran down Kizoba's spine as he realized the full horror. He stood and paced, blood pounding. My father, he whispered. The man who should have protected me. His voice cracked. Then anger flooded in, bright and hot. He clenched his fist. You will pay for what you did. Outside, rain began to patter on the window. Lightning split the sky. Kizoba stared into the storm, resolve solidifying like concrete. The sun had returned, and fate's reckoning was at hand. The midday sun beat down mercilessly on the dusty compound where Ijeoma had hidden Kizoba all those years ago. Now, the makeshift fence that shielded their secret life stood as the first clue in Kizoba's investigation. He climbed over the sagging gate, heart pounding, and found Ijeoma. Her once fiery eyes dulled by age, waiting with 2 steaming mugs of zobo. Kizoba, she greeted, voice tremulous. You came. He swallowed hard. I needed to see where it all began. He looked around at the corrugated iron roofs and rusted drums. Ijeoma, tell me everything. She led him to a battered wooden chest under her cot. Your mother's things. I kept them hidden. Hesitantly, she lifted out a faded photograph of a maca cradling newborn Kizoba, and a leather-bound diary. She wrote in this every night. Kizoba's fingers shook as he opened the diary. On the first page, in a maca's neat handwriting, I fear for my life. Mama Yuzo says danger approaches. If anything happens to me, protect my son. He looked up, voice thick. Where did you find me after that night? Ijeoma wiped a tear. The back entrance, the servant's door. You were crying but alive. I carried you here. She pointed to the gate. I never told anyone, not even Mama Yuzo's sisters. Kizoba nodded, steeling himself. I need proof. He pulled out a gloved hand and a sterile swab. I'm doing a DNA test, comparing my blood to my father's. Ijeoma flinched. He placed the sample into a small vial. If it's him, he must face justice. That afternoon, he visited Mr. Nwankwo, the retired detective who'd once policed the Uma estate. In the cramped office smelling of mothballs, Kizoba slid a dossier across the desk. Photos of the sealed crime scene, the diary excerpts, and Ijeoma's sworn statement. Nwankwo's gnarled finger traced the margin notes. This contradicts the official report. He leaned back. If you have DNA confirmation, we can reopen the case. Kizoba's jaw clenched. We will. He pocketed the vial. Outside, the world carried on. Motorbikes weaving through traffic, children kicking a tattered football. But for Kizoba, every step brought him closer to the man who'd buried his past. Back in his apartment overlooking the lagoon, Kizoba convened his inner circle. Best friend Adebola, a cybersecurity whiz, Pastor Samuel, who'd baptized him, and Professor Ogundipe, his mentor. They crowded around a laptop as Adebola typed furiously. I've cracked their server, Adebola announced. On screen, a membership roster of Chief Okoye's business circle, complete with photographs and coded payment records. They've funneled millions through shell companies tied to Obinna Uma. Professor Ogundipe gasped. This is worship of dark spirits. They use blood money to enrich themselves. Kizoba's gaze hardened. Let's make it public. Within minutes, they launched a website, Blood Tycoon Leaks NG, and shared links across social media. Screens flooded with images of Obinna shaking hands with shadowy figures under neon lights. News outlets picked up the story. Exclusive. Cult finances of Lagos elite exposed. That evening, Obinna sat in his glass-walled study, phone buzzing with notifications. His CFO, Tund, appeared pale. Sir, the story is everywhere. Investors are pulling out. Regulators are calling. Obinna's voice trembled. Find out who did this. Track the source. I'll make them pay. Downstairs, camera crews camped on the sidewalk. Passers-by jeered, Cult killer, and Blood Tycoon, Blood Tycoon. Obinna retreated deeper into the tower, the walls closing in. Desperate, Obinna turned to every spiritual avenue. He summoned a renowned native doctor at midnight to the penthouse. The room filled with the acrid smoke of herbs and the rhythmic beat of wooden drums. "Offer the blood of the innocent," the doctor intoned, eyes rolling back. "Only then can you break the curse." Obinna flinched. "I won't harm anyone else." He slid a wad of cash across the altar. The doctor sneered and waved him away. Next, he visited Pastor Daniel in Ikoyi, known for deliverance services. Under harsh floodlights in the church basement, Obinna fell to his knees. "Remove this darkness from me," he wailed. Pastor Daniel frowned. "True repentance is needed." He raised his hands. "Repent of your sins, confess the murders." Obinna's face twisted. "You don't understand." But the pastor's voice boomed. "God sees all. No amount of prayer will help until you confess." Obinna stormed out, begging his driver to speed away. He glanced at the rearview mirror. In its dark surface he saw two women, Amaka and Mama Yuzo, standing behind him, arms crossed, eyes accusing. He swerved and nearly collided with a bus. His heart hammered as panic closed in. The spiritual onslaught had begun in earnest, and no ritual or sermon could stop it. One rain-swept evening, Obinna returned to find his penthouse eerily quiet. The lights flickered. In the hallway mirror, he glimpsed movement, Mama Yuzo's prayer beads slipping through her fingers. He spun around, no one was there. In the marble bathroom, he stared at his reflection. But the face that stared back was not his own. It was Amaka's, mouth open in a silent scream. He jolted backward, smashing his shoulder into the glass. Blood spattered the white tiles. He slapped at the wound, breathing raggedly. When he dared to look again, the mirror showed only him, red-rimmed eyes and trembling lips. A cold hand seemed to brush his shoulder. He screamed, shattering the mirror with a heavy shampoo bottle. Glass rained down. He fell to his knees, shards cutting into his palms. "Mom! Amaka!" he sobbed. "Why won't you leave me alone?" Silence answered, punctuated by distant thunder. He lay among the broken glass, the shards reflecting neon signs from outside, symbols of the unforgiving city. His empire crumbled, his mind frayed, and the ghostly accusation would not relent. The day the court reopened, Lagos buzzed with anticipation. Police lines cordoned off Obinna's glass tower. Journalists swarmed. Inside the Lagos High Court, the gallery overflowed with onlookers and activists wearing t-shirts emblazoned, "Justice for Amaka and Yuzo." Kizoba sat in the front row, flanked by Ijeoma and Professor Ogundipe. His heart thundered as the judge entered. Obinna, in a gray suit and dark glasses, slunk in beside his defense counsel. The prosecution called Ijeoma to the stand. She clutched the dusty photograph, voice unwavering. "I rescued Kizoba that night. I hid him so he could grow up." The courtroom stilled as she described finding the diary pages stained with Amaka's tears. Next, the DNA results. A forensic expert confirmed a 99.99% match between Kizoba and Obinna. A murmur ran through the crowd. Obinna's face paled behind his glasses. Then came the bombshell. Kizoba's flash drive played Amaka's recorded voice message to a friend. "I fear Obinna's greed will kill us both. If anything happens, save my boy." As the voice echoed, Obinna clenched his fists. His defense lawyer objected, but the judge allowed it as crucial evidence. In a final dramatic moment, Kizoba rose to deliver a victim impact statement. His voice, steady yet raw, filled the hall. "My mother and grandmother are gone because of his greed. I stand here for them. This court must remember, no amount of money can wash away blood." Outside, cameras captured Obinna's trembling lips as the judge adjourned for deliberation. Kizoba met his father's gaze for a heartbeat. No anger, only sorrow and resolve. As the gavel struck, the world held its breath. The sun had returned, the trial was underway, and fate's reckoning was poised to strike the final blow. The cameras rolled as Obinna was escorted into the makeshift press enclosure outside the courthouse. Reporters jostled for position, microphones thrust forward. Obinna paused on the steps, his tailored gray suit now rumpled, his posture defeated. He glanced over the sea of flashing lights and choking questions. Is it true you killed your wife and mother? Do you regret it? Summoning the last shreds of pride, Obinna lifted his chin. His voice trembled but carried across the crowd. Yes. Confess. I murdered Amaka and Mama Yuzo. He closed his eyes as gasps rippled through the throng. My greed drove me to betray the two purest loves of my life. I am ashamed. A reporter shouted. Why didn't you stop? Obinna's face cracked into anguished sorrow. I was weak. I listened to dark promises. He paused, tears glistening. I pray for forgiveness, though I know I don't deserve it. He stumbled into the courthouse, his confession echoing like thunder. Inside, the judge adjourned momentarily as Obinna's lawyers conferred in hushed tones. In the gallery, Kizoba's gaze was steady. No triumph, only a quiet resolve. The son had heard the truth from his father's own lips, and the first blow of fate had landed. Weeks later, Obinna awoke in a dingy cell at Kirikiri Maximum Security Prison. The concrete walls reeked of sweat and despair. As the iron gate clanged shut behind him, his heart pounded, not with fear of other inmates, but with dread of the voices that haunted his mind. His cellmate, a grizzled burglar named Okafor, offered a crooked smile. So you're the blood tycoon, eh? He rasped. Obinna remained silent, haunted by Mama Yuzo's curse. That night, he dreamt of his mother's withered hand reaching for him, Amaka's final scream echoing across an endless corridor. He bolted upright on his bunk, drenched in sweat. The next day, Obinna faced his first prison trial, shuffling with shackles down a fluorescent-lit corridor. Guards taunted him. Hey, big shot! The big man brought low. Echoes of laughter bounced off the walls. In the midday sun, Obinna squinted at the barred windows, realizing the true cost of his ambition. Freedom stolen, no bail, no mercy. At dusk, he lay on the hard bunk as distant thunder rolled. The rain pattered on the tin roof, each drop a reminder of the storm he'd unleashed. He whispered into the darkness, I'm sorry, over and over, pleading to ghosts that would never absolve him. Meanwhile, Kizoba's foundation held its inaugural gala in a refurbished community hall on the mainland. Women in flowing Ankara dresses and children in crisp school uniforms packed the room. A banner read, Amaka and Yuzo Legacy Fund. Kizoba took the stage in a simple navy blazer. Tonight we honor the two women whose lives were stolen, he began, voice strong. He unveiled scholarships for girls from abused homes and microloans for single mothers. The crowd rose in applause, tears and cheers mingling under warm lantern light. Later, a minister tapped him on the shoulder. Your work is changing lives, she smiled. You've turned tragedy into hope. Kizoba nodded, gazing at the children's drawings of smiles and schoolbooks that lined the walls. He fingered the small locket bearing his mother's picture, proof that from blood-soaked soil new seeds could grow. That night, he stood alone outside the hall, listening to faint laughter and distant traffic. He whispered a vow. I will build an empire of compassion, one Amaka and Mama Yuzo would be proud to see. On a gray morning, Kizoba stepped through the wrought iron gates of the Uma family plot in Ikoyi Cemetery. The manicured lawn was dotted with elegant headstones. He knelt before two newly engraved markers. Amaka Uma, beloved wife and mother, and Mama Yuzo Namdi, matriarch and healer. He placed fresh white lilies at their base. A soft breeze stirred the petals as he began to speak. Mother, Grandma, I've brought justice. He recounted the trial's outcome, the foundation's launch, and the lives touched by their legacy. His voice cracked but grew firmer. Your sacrifice gave me purpose. As the clouds parted, a ray of sunlight fell across the headstones. Kizoba traced the engraved names with a trembling finger, feeling both closure and unhealed pain. He rose, bowing his head in silent prayer. Behind him the city's hum felt distant, Here, time moved differently, shaped by loss and remembrance. Before departing, he laid his hand on each stone. "I promise," he whispered, "your light will never die." With that, he turned toward the city, carrying both grief and hope in his heart. 5 years later, Obinna sat in a padded room of a psychiatric facility on Lagos Island, dressed in plain clothes and stripped of every luxury. His eyes darted at unseen shadows. He muttered prayers nobody heard. Staff passed without stopping. His world was a silent prison more than the steel bars ever were. Meanwhile, on the podium of the National Innovation Summit, Kizoba, now a celebrated social entrepreneur, addressed a packed auditorium. Cameras relayed his words live across screens. "No empire built on blood ever stands the test of time," he declared, gaze unwavering. "True legacy is measured in lives uplifted." As the crowd erupted in applause, Kizoba's eyes flicked to a familiar face in the front row, Pastor Samuel Igioma and Professor Ogundipe smiling with pride. He raised his hand in gratitude, the weight of his journey evident in his composed posture. Back in the facility, Obinna pressed his forehead to the window, frosted glass obscuring the bustling street below. He whispered into the emptiness, "What have I done?" But no reply came, only the echo of distant traffic. Fate had delivered its final verdict, and the son had built something far more enduring than his father's shattered empire. Then,